Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
And I'm Brad, otherwise known as Redbay.
Hey, you're back.
Yeah.
And you're back not quite for the Design League, but maybe something that's like kind of a cousin of Design League.
Well, I had to come out of the kitchen to record the podcast for this one.
Saw a lot of flames spurting out from the other room. You had to like corral a devil and like an angry patron in from the other room.
Oh, they like it spicy. Maybe spicier than I thought they would like it.
Yeah. We're talking about this week about You Make the Pack, which is a thing that we ran in the Discord for a couple months. The sort of the way that this event was set up. Well, maybe I'll just read what was posted in the Discord. Every few days, a thread opens with submissions for the next slot in the pack. These slots are unstructured and don't follow an order, though everyone is free to agree to organize specific slots. After 2 days, we will vote on submissions, and the winner becomes that slot in the pack. After about 45 days, we will have a pack. How wonderful. We've got kind of 2 days of designing, 1 day of voting, 2 days of designing, 1 day of voting. And we went through 15 slots that way.
We have a very tangible finish line. We're only going to make the 15 cards. It's only going to take that 45 days-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt very low commitment, but if you wanted to participate, there was lots of opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and people could submit just one card for one slot. They didn't have to like be there every day. You could just vote. I just voted on it. I didn't submit cards. I think kind of the mixture of designing a bunch of cards, rather designing a card every couple days, and then also looking at the pack and what has come into the pack so far and what the rest of the pack should be. That combination of like kind of some speed, but also kind of some control is what kind of characterized You Make the Pack for me. And actually, the kind of the second message that got posted after the event started was from you, which was to make Beacon of Creation World, Vigilance, Dirtly Tokens, Pun Cards, Squad, and Doors. A bunch of things that we've harped on the show. Like the Vigilance was the first one. Everyone kind of liked that idea. And then what more Dirtly Token is there than food? And then we had our first slot was from I think Mono White Border. What was that card?
So that was Add a Kick for a single red mana instant. Add a Kick deals 1 damage to target creature or player, and then it has Seasoning for another single red mana. When you sacrifice a food, you may cast a spell from your graveyard by paying its seasoning cost, then exile it. This card directly references food. It directly references sacrificing food. In the art, we've got kind of like almost like a ninja character, and they've got like a wok full of, looks like vegetables, maybe some shrimp, that kind of thing, sizzling. Yeah. And it's definitely got this like red fiery motif. Like they're definitely spicing it up, which harkens to that seasoning mechanic.
Yeah, so you could deal 1 damage to something, and then you get to recast this from your graveyard, kind of flashback style, but only like after you sacrifice a food. So you really want foods. Another thing that was maybe not surprising about You Make the Pack, but became clear pretty quickly, is that people were going to make sure the rest of this pack made Add a Kick work, right? They're going to make sure that there was food in the set. Red wouldn't really be a food color normally. How were you going to make cards that went with that? It was kind of interesting that the first card ended up really being the signpost for the whole pack.
Yeah, it really defined what I think people would find to be acceptable. So like, I know some other people threw some other card types and effects and aesthetics into some of the submission threads, but it was like, oh, well, it's, a little off the like target in terms of like, it doesn't match up well with Add a Kick. So I'm not voting for it, or it doesn't seem to be getting votes from the majority.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I ran into in the voting, because like I said, I voted for all of them. We ended up doing this kind of star voting thing where you kind of rank rather than just picking your favorite. You kind of rank all the cards and about how good you think each of them are. Um, if someone wanted to unseat food as the direction the pack was going, they not only had to come up with another good direction that the pack could have, but they also had to design a really good card for that idea. When you were voting, do you think you had like one favorite, or were you kind of mixing it up and saying like, here are two or three of my favorites, and then a bunch that I would prefer not to see in the pack? How did you split that up?
Yeah, definitely like that inverse bell curve of like, no, these are cards that I do not want to see in the pack. And then on the other end of the spectrum, no, these are cards I really want to see in the pack. So with the star voting system, it was a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't spending a lot of threes on cards. I was try to have an opinion on every submission that went in, good or bad.
I had like a little bit of a different approach. I was maybe not trying quite as hard to steer the pack. So a lot of times I think I probably had a lot of threes. I probably had a lot of votes in the middle. You have sort of this mixture where you can't just vote. You can't just direct the pack by saying something out loud. You have to design a card, and then other people have say in whether that individual card is interesting enough, is cool enough for where the pack should go.
Yeah, that was another interesting part to the submission process because we were allowed to accompany our cards with like a little blurb about, I think that we should include this card for this reason, or I think that this archetype needs a little fleshing out. Maybe this card could help for that. And it did feel kind of as we were getting towards the end, as we were going through the last 3 or 4 cards, the cards didn't come with blurbs so much, and it was more of a, I'm just going to let this thing stand and we'll see where it goes. I don't think either is necessarily better than the other. I think telling people how to feel is sometimes is detrimental too. So
yeah.
but also it was interesting to see when somebody had a more overarching vision for like, hey, I've got this card, it's got this text on it, but I think that there's something cool we could do in this more overarching set. Coming back to what you said about food in an environment where you also have blue and red as colors. And like there was a lot of great discussion on what do these two colors do with food. I know there was a lot of cards spent on, can we make a blue card make food, can we make a red card make food.
Yeah,
we didn't end up with those in the pack because I think it was a really tough puzzle to try and solve. But I think that the puzzle of trying to do it was worth it unto itself.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get into a couple of these cards. We heard Add a Kick. I think the third card that got in there is a card that really helps cement that maybe if we're not going to be all food tokens, we're at least going to be all food themed. And the card there was Burgermeister Celebrant, which is just a funny card name to read out loud. This is 3 mana, 1 white, blue, gold card at uncommon. It's a 2/2 creature fairy noble. So 3 mana, 2/2. And then creatures you control have ingest, which when you first read it, it's like, oh, this is a new mechanic. Wait a second, that's not a new mechanic. It's from Battle for Zendikar. Creatures you control have ingest. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of their library. And then it has an extra clause here. Whenever a card leaves an opponent's library outside of their draw step, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with vigilance. This ability triggers at most twice each turn.
Yeah, what I really appreciated about Burgermeister Celebrant was the use of the word celebrant, and then the art depicts this colorful character wearing like carnival type clothing. You've got like big blue feathers, and it to me, I took it as, hey, maybe we're opening up that, yeah, there's this food theme, and that's part of it. But like we're at a festival or we're at a circus or something like that. There's lots of stuff going on, and we could really lean into having a big group of people together at a celebration. Maybe this is a celebration event set, maybe like the vampire wedding kind of idea, but maybe with a more food related, maybe a food competition, maybe a chopped or something like that. This didn't really kind of ring through with the pack, but in my head, the environment at large is at a festival. We just didn't get those cards in the pack.
What we've kind of learned with unpacking with those episodes where you just look at one pack blind, you don't always get the full story of the set, and you get things that are in the set. You get a one-off card that cares about artifacts, but then you don't know, is that a huge theme in the set? Is that a tiny theme in the set? What kind of faction cares about artifacts? There wasn't really a lot of way to set up, like, here is what the plane is. It's really just what do you see when you see these 5 cards that we have so far? And what do you think the plane is from that, with no other information? You can talk about it and you can get ideas with other people, but nothing else is locked in yet. You can see the whole pack in the Discord, but rather than trying to read all of those cards, what I think we're going to do is read the cards that people called out as either the funniest or most flavorful, or cards they wanted to play. Kind of use that as a way to get a look into about half of this pack on air here.
So for best flavor, which I think is a really important award to get in this very food related pack. Larson's hot sauce glutton was one of the picks for this. It's 3 and a black for a 3/2 creature ogre berserker, and it has, whenever you cast a spell for its seasoning cost, hot sauce glutton gets +2/+2 and death touch until the end of turn. With the flavor text, watch out, he's gonna burp. This ogre berserker has got kind of a big mouth on him. Like he looks like he enjoys some food here and there. There's that the hot sauce and the seasoning, and then the getting bigger, just kind of ringing through as like maybe breathing like sriracha fire or something like that when you eat the food with the extra seasoning on it.
The glutton, whenever you cast a spell with seasoning, so it's like sort of whenever you flash back a spell. I don't know if we've seen that on a creature before. Can you remember that? Yeah, this is kind of an interesting spot for a card to be.
And in an interesting place for like a black common to be too, in terms of like signaling a very interesting archetype. It pairs well with Add a Kick. Add a Kick does the thing it does for a really cheap cost, so you can get that +2/+2 efficiently, and then it's dangerous. Like this thing turns into a 5/4 death touch. I think that's a pretty big creature in the red zone.
Big. I don't know that there's like a big monster who loves eating. Big monsters get to eat too in food world. Even though he looks pretty evil, somehow that it's in food world and his name is Hot Sauce Glutton makes him more of a buddy. He's just hungry. The base rate on this card is I don't know. You'd have to really believe in seasoning to think that this was a card you're going to throw in a deck. 4 mana 3/2. That's pretty small. And then it's whenever you cast a spell for a seasoning cost, so you have to also generate food and also have seasoning cards. And I think the overall wisdom was maybe that like the slightly pushed commons were going to beat the not pushed commons. But I think in this case, something else went out, something besides just power level 1. We had another card get highlighted for its flavor. Man, the flavor double meetings are really going to kill us this episode. But we've got Fast Food Familiar, which is a little buddy juggling a burger. He's got some horns. He's a little imp. 1 and a black for an artifact creature food imp at uncommon. He's a 3/2. Flying in haste. Then after your draw step, tap Fast Food Familiar unless you sacrifice a food. And then because it itself is a food, it can also do 2 and tap sack, gain 3 life. Never worry about leftovers again. Just to imp hold the burger. We're already like halfway there. Like it's just I don't know where this art came from.
A big question in any food environment is like, how are you supporting the aggressive decks? Because if everybody's got an extra 3 to 9 life every game, it's tough for those decks that want to end the game quickly to do that. So like a 3/2 flying haste for 2 mana is like a good way to at least eat up some of those food chunks. And then it itself being a food has that strategic implication of, well, I can't get in anymore with this thing. It's costing me too much. I'm going to sack it as food to, gain some life, maybe trigger some seasoning. So it's a very neat little package, and it does a lot of different things all at the same time.
You get your 3 damage when you first play this because it has haste. So you're at least getting something. And then either you're using up your food, so you're kind of giving up on 3 life each turn from here on out, or it's the food for somebody else. So I guess the pivot potential is pretty high on that. Maybe the other thing that we're kind of learning about what people decided when they thought about like, how do we make Food World without Board Stall World? With the hot sauce glutton, you're kind of committing to eating the food like on your turn. Whereas I think the food play pattern sort of fits normally in the, I have removal spells, I have card draw, I have activated abilities. So I'm going to wait until the end of my opponent's turn to crack anything. Like a very low committal gameplay style, which, you kind of associate with longer games, right? My opponent has all their mana up. Well, maybe it's because they have a food, but maybe it's because they have some combat tricks to blow up my attacks. So I won't attack this turn. But with the glutton, with the fast food familiar, we're pushing a little harder in the direction of like committing to using up your food on your turn in order to maximize your cards.
So food as a mechanic has had its time in the sun, both in Eldraine and in Lord of the Rings. But I don't think in either environment they were super successful in not turning food into a slug. So I really do appreciate the attempt in this You Make the Pack to like give food some other outlets and try to push it into an aggressive direction. I don't know if all of the cards in this pack also speak to that direction as well, but this is just one pack, right? We've always got that in our back pocket of don't worry, the rest of the set is very well laid out. It's perfect.
I think you get to sometimes if you're working on a custom set or you're giving feedback on someone else's custom set, like it can be really challenging because you kind of have to justify, hey, does the environment actually support this theme? You have to actually know, are there, does Black have access to 4 seasoning cards to make Hot Sauce Glutton work? And does at least one of its color pairs also care about seasoning? Here we just get to say yes. We don't have to design those other cards. They just exist. We're in Magical World. They're in the other 254 cards or whatever that are out in the environment. Whereas once you get into the details, maybe it is a pretty challenging thing to do. Lord of the Rings, like, it really wanted food to work, but it was functionality-wise, it was near the bottom in terms of the color pairs and themes in the set. Another kind of category that we had were funniest cards. And one of them from there was Starving Caterpillar, which is a reference to like a kid's book, Very Hungry Caterpillar, which I still kind of remember from when I was a kid. But this card here, 1 and a green for a 1/1. Whenever a food enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Starving Caterpillar. And then 1 and a green, sacrifice a creature, create a food token. Normally, I would think sacking a creature to get a food token would be a pretty big downgrade. But here, we got something going.
Notably, it's 1 and a black, sacrifice a creature to create a food token.
1 and a black. Whoops.
This is, if you like letting your mind race, thinking about what else exists in the larger context, this this common green creature having a black activated ability
Yes.
is like,
Yeah.
is there an overarching multicolor thing going on? Is this a part of a horizontal cycle where all the cards with an off-color activation? That's the kind of thing that I really enjoy when I'm looking at these things, like trying to figure out, well, what is Starving Caterpillar doing, and what is Starving Caterpillar saying about the set, in addition to just being this lovely reference to the children's book. But I can't help but agree with you in the sense that sacking a creature to make a food, so that's saying like food is worth a lot then, right?
Yeah.
Like you need a ton of food on the battlefield to make this super interesting anyway.
Yeah. And then when you kind of like process the card some more, if you just have an ability, 1 in a black, sack a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Well, this card kind of gives that to you if that's all you really need. The ability to just like eat your other creatures mid-combat or something in order to grow this caterpillar. And you also get a food. It's something that's like a funny read, which maybe is like a little, it's a little dessert for designers, right? Why would you design a card like this? Oh, wait, that's why you would design a card like this.
The Starving Caterpillar was from Sage Bee, and Sage Bee also made another funny card in Dining Dasher. Red for a 1/1 creature goblin rogue, and it has haste and it has ingest. And again, that's whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of their library. And the flavor text, grab and go meals are my favorite.
The Dining Dasher, that's you eat at a restaurant and then flee when your bill comes, when the waitress isn't looking. Or maybe DoorDash, the big company that contracts out delivering food.
Yeah, lots of room for puns in like food kitchen set. Like Dining Dasher is like if you say it the right way, it even sounds like Dine and Dasher too. Like that, you get like the double whammy. Yeah. And then seeing ingest on this like little red goblin is it too feels kind of like a little designer nod. Like, yeah, you wouldn't really see this in many other sets, but it's something that's special to this You Make the Pack set.
Yeah. When you're in there looking at cards every couple days, voting on cards, giving feedback, having ingested 3 colors is an even bolder statement than it was when it was just like a blue, white, gold card. Well, it's also in red. We're really saying something about what this set wants. If it has 3 colors of ingest in there, how are you going to pay off 3 colors worth of ingest? What is ingest doing? Why are we exiling stuff? Why does exiling stuff matter? And we didn't really get an answer, but we could just believe that there's an answer.
So the secret tech there is like, okay, everybody's life totals are artificially inflated, so we're going straight for the library.
Okay.
So there is 33 cards left in library functionally the same as like 30 life? Probably not, but if you want to think in the overarching set, right, that there's that red dragon that ingests like 10 when it hits or something like that, there we go. Now it works.
Yeah. And you could even imagine there's a blue-white mill theme someday that could maybe exist. Yeah, Dying Dasher. What a little goofball. The last card category that we're asking nominees for was cards you want to play, like cards that say, like, put me in a deck now. And 2 cards that got shout-outs here. One of them was the rare Devilish Tutor. 1 in a red, exile the top 13 cards of your library. You may play one of those cards this turn. So a really deep impulse draw.
Like in limited, I don't know how different this is than a demonic tutor. Like I get that it's strictly worse. Like you're looking at half your deck at that point. It's I guess the real kicker here is you may play one of those cards this turn. So like
this turn,
you got to be into some late game mode. But very red flavored card. Like looking at that many cards, and how are you planning ahead? I think that was kind of a cool card cool part about this card where it's so not black, is the feel of it.
Yeah. It's a good niche. The 13, we love that. The unlucky 13.
And then this card was designed by Bradley Rose.
Oh, yeah. And then the last one that we got from these highlights was a really unusual one, which was a token. So we ended up with a 14 card, 1 token pack, maybe new Murder in Baldur's Gate style play booster. A token beating other cards, I think, is kind of an achievement in itself. And it's because we got a little bit of unaction in this card. It's called Secret Ingredient, and it's a token artifact mystery food. It has the normal food text. 2 tap, sack this, you gain 3 life, but then also then peel to reveal. And you've got like what looks like a little piece of tape on this token here, and presumably some mystery rules text underneath.
This was kind of contentious as we found out afterwards, but I really wanted a card that was out in the left field to be in the you make the pack. It really felt like you needed to be in the food realm to get a card into the pack. So this felt like you have no idea what it is, and maybe we won't get any cards in the pack to tell you what it is. So no one will ever know what it is. And that came true. We don't have any cards that refer to secret ingredients in the other slots, right?
Yeah. We had submissions for it, but none of them made it in.
Yeah.
Whether or not that happened, I think you were going to be happy either way, whether we had a secret ingredient creator or not. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we had a way to make a secret ingredient, fantastic. If we don't, also fantastic, because they exist regardless in the set. They're out there. There's a way to make a secret ingredient. I just don't know what it is.
One of the things that jumped out about the secret ingredient to me is that it felt like it made it possible to have like rares that made food that were interesting. One of the problems I think with food sometimes is it's hard to make a rare level effect that makes food. And if you just make like 5 food at the same time, well, you're not going to have time to crack it. And then you just become like an artifact deck that's like triggering artifact fall over and over. It makes the food token from one of the least interesting things to like a mystery thing. It could be still kind of not that good, but it also could be quite good. It could be like a really cool token underneath.
It could even be a food.
Yeah, maybe you gain another 3 life. That would be pretty funny. That's a good idea. I was actually curious what the food should do. So I just asked the Discord to do my work for me, which they graciously did. I think one of the things that jumped out early on about the secret ingredient that Wobbles had mentioned in the Discord was that there might be some space out there. There might be like a place for un-ish elements that only affect a draft. Like, we're not trying to redefine Commander. We're not trying to redefine Legacy. We don't need Modern to blow up. Take the initiative, kind of like made a bunch of Legacy playables out of really complicated cards. The Mind Goblin or whatever, the uncard that made its way into older formats. Like, but what if you just had something to make draft fun? So you could have this extra, maybe in the neighborhood of plane chase element to a set without affecting the entire Magic ecosystem.
Yes, I think ultimately it is an uncard, and I think ultimately it is using unmechanics. But it is interesting to think about an environment where you have like how many of these cards in these packs are like throwaway cards. Like now, Larson's suggestion that it's just human underneath the, the sticker, so like kind of a scent or a flavor. That's super fun too. I'm just as into that.
That it's just smells underneath it. There's nothing else. But before we quite move on from the kind of dreamy design space part, is you might basically just have another version of a token that you only use while drafting. Whenever you draft this set, you just replace all food creation with secret ingredient creation or something like that. But then when you're outside of draft, it just makes food. So you kind of have this kind of mode switch depending on whether or not you're in draft or not in draft. Or maybe we don't even need in every draft. Maybe we just add this into some drafts for fun. You can imagine a pre-release pack that has like 8 sealed secret ingredients in a clear kind of cellophane pack that you use just for that pre-release event. And it just drops in. You could even have the cube that uses food cards from other set, but now, the Lord of the Rings food cards also make secret ingredients. Maybe I'm harping on it too much, but I felt really strongly about the potential of that concept. Yeah, we could have the scent packs. As someone who can't smell very well, I actually couldn't think of like, what is cumin usually in? What would I recognize that has that flavor?
Chili,
Chili.
taco meat usually.
Okay, taco meat. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I feel like with chili, then now we're up to like 8 different spices, and now I won't be able to tell what's going on.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Plenty of people jumped in with just Eldrazi spawn. that was like kind of gross, right? Imagine like a worm in your apple, but it's a Eldrazi spawn in your orange. Maybe the Iron Chef kind of stuff, like a food challenge show, like a game show. You're given a secret ingredient and you have to work with it, whether or not it's weird. Well, this time you're cooking with Eldrazi spawn.
It's got to be devoid of taste, right?
Are Eldrazi flavorless? Is there? Do we have any magic cards depicting eating Eldrazi?
It's usually the reverse, right?
Yeah. Maybe there's like a 5/5 out there that's chomping on a Eldrazi or something. Juliet, of course, the design workhorse that they are, just hit us with a bunch of effects that maybe could go onto there. Each player loses life equal to the life you've gained this turn. Add 3 men of any color. Investigate. So we've got food that gives you life, and then also you'd investigate and make a clue. There's you bit into the piece of cake, and it was the key to get you out of your jail cell. You may activate an ability of target permanent you control without paying its mana costs. That's exciting. Surveil 2. Create a tapped 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. I guess, yeah, creating tokens popping out of the mystery ingredient. This could be a fun thing. I'm just loving the idea that like we have the most boring token there is. No offense to food, but the most boring token that there is, and it's going to have a spin the wheel on it. We're going to do something unusual with it.
The Black Lotus text underneath that peel to reveal is really fun in terms of like it could be something as simple as like you create another food and you're like, come on, really? And then the person across from you cracks theirs and it's like, oh look, Black Lotus.
Yeah.
Just
the other thing that's kind of wild about that is if you're trying to play the end of your opponent's turn food eating lifestyle, that's when like Black Lotus is probably the least useful. You want Black Lotus on your turn. You want that mana back so you can cast creatures and sorceries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Putting other things under the secret ingredient, the peel sticker, it allows you to do things that if you know what's coming, you can plan too much. And if you don't know what's coming, you could kind of gear the effects towards like solving some of the problems you might have with food in a draft environment. And I don't know, the potential's just so high. I'm just loving it. Kiyoshi had a fun one here. A caption on there. What am I supposed to do with squid? And then rules text, each player mills 3 cards. So that's maybe more of the Iron Chef flavor of the ingredient under there is squid. And you're like a classically trained chef. And you're like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm mentally devastated. I'm going to mill 3 cards because I can't handle this game show right now.
The use of flavor text in there it really, really speaks to me. I think that one's really fun. Like you could do all of Juliet's with little flavor captions, and I think they would work too.
Yeah. I almost want to peel away like the picture, and then it like the picture has like what's inside of the secret ingredient, and then a little bit of rules text.
Oh yeah. Like if the sticker was over the art as well, yes, that'd be very fun.
Yeah.
Or like a pop-up book where you like pull a tab and the thing that's in the box pops out.
I'm just riding so high off of the potential of this. I don't know. It sometimes can feel too random, but I don't know. I just have so much faith in the ability of designers to like collate the right mixture of things under this text here. The last couple that we got in Crafted Lava give us scratch and sniff technology with an accompanying lookup table. What the smell means. This is a little silly. I could not do this to save my life. I would fail to know what each of these smells are. But because this is not real, we don't have to worry quite as much about people's physical abilities, I guess.
And then
oh yeah,
this was so like literally random in the sense of like I hit Scryfall random and then Fairy Dragon came up and I was like, what is this card? Like, what is play a random effect? And Scryfall has a built-in button with random effect. So maybe your secret ingredient will give you 3 life, and target creature other than Fairy Dragon chosen at random has base power and toughness 0-2 until end of turn.
Oh. Were these from, was it like a Dreamcast game or something? I can't remember where these Astral cards are from. Microprose's Astral set. So yeah, that would have been Chandelar. I'm not quite sure which one Fairy Dragon was from, but the ability to click random effect and get a pop-up. Target spell or permanent chosen at random becomes blue. Target creature chosen at random can't be regenerated this turn. You know this card was from 1994 if it cared about preventing someone from regenerating. Back then, we really cared about stopping people from regenerating. Choose one at random, tap target artifact, creature, or land chosen at random, or untap target artifact, creature, or land chosen at random.
You peel the reveal and you're getting like a random effect in the first place, and then like not only are you getting random effect, but you don't even get to choose how to use that random effect. So yeah, a Spike's worst nightmare or something that they won't touch with a 40-foot pole.
Oh, target creature chosen at random gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Yeah, I think this is a little more random than I want. I want the designers to shine through and pick the best 20, 25 effects that we're going to put under these secret ingredients.
Well, or even like a rarity table where you've got you've got mythic effect, you've got rare effect, you've got uncommon effect, and then maybe a set of common effects that you're frequently going to get. That way you can plan around it a little bit, but if you do spike, it's just going to be better for you and it's not going to be worse.
Yeah. I'm just loving it. I don't know. We kind of derailed talking about you make the pack and just started talking about secret ingredient for 12 minutes, but I'm here for it. The other kind of thing wrapping up the experience of making the pack that I wanted, we had good engagement. We got consistent, 5 to 8 cards and a lot for the slots. So something went right about it, and I wanted to try to capture that. The comments that I saw for that were designing a ton of commons. Like this was an excuse to design a lot of commons. Was the designing a lot of commons appealing to you? Did you want to get to the rares? How did you feel about it?
In the early submissions, there were rares in the mix or mythics even, and those got voted down pretty aggressively. Like people weren't ready to commit a card to that slot, whereas if you floated out a common that was semi-reasonable, it tended to perform pretty well in the votes. I like making commons for sets. They're not particularly well suited for some of the other stuff that we do in the community in terms of like you're doing a design challenge. You might feel kind of limited when you're doing a common, that when you're supposed to, make something that breaks the color pie or something like that. Whereas this felt like a cool thing to do where making commons was not a detriment and was even like a bonus.
If you've ever tried to design a Magic set starting with a skeleton, where you have, I forget quite how many, your 18 white commons or whatever. And then you're trying to think, okay, so I've got 9 creatures in there. 2 of them are going to be large. 2 of them have to fly. 2 of them should be 1 cost, 2 costs, that kind of stuff. Sometimes that can be kind of constricting because you'd need, if you want to work on a card, you're kind of looking at the slot first. You're looking at exactly, I need to make my 2-drop today. What can I do in my set that makes the 2-drop interesting? But here in You Make the Pack, you're designing commons, but you're not really constrained by that skeleton concern. You don't have to worry about, oh, we've already designed a 2-drop. We shouldn't design another 2-drop. You're just kind of making whatever feels good for the direction of the pack. You have a little more freedom to just like try to make a cool common, whatever that means. Another thing that someone pointed out was the quick turnaround. You have 2 days to design the card, and you don't have to design for every slot. But if you want to get in there, you got a little bit of a constraint. You got a little bit of heat. You don't have the whole month to think about it, but you kind of got to get it done.
Yeah, it was. Let's put something in there, and even if it's not the ideal card, just make sure to get a card in there, because if you do run out of time or whatever, then you've missed out on at least seeing how that card performed in comparison to some of the other cards. As we got kind of later on into the pack, I actually had a mental flip of, I'm going to leave it alone and just sit on it and think about it and think about the pack. The other note on here was thinking about new cards to help make themes connected to the other cards and mechanics. From Add a Kick to Fast Food Familiar to Burgermeister Celebrant, we were in a very open-ended pack in terms of there's lots of rarity slots available. There was lots of colors that hadn't been touched. There was lots of mechanics that we were still fleshing out. But as we were kind of getting to the end, and I think Indulgent Gourmand, this raccoon card was like the last card to make it in there. I was just like, we just don't have enough white cards. So like, I'll make a white card to fill in that slot. But it's hard to do that if you're just firing off, shooting from the hip kind of idea.
Yeah, people started to get the analysis going on what the pack was missing, which is fun. Either between what people designed and what people voted for, I guess you kind of also were constrained with what you could design because you wanted it to fit in with the rest of the pack. You wanted it to cohere with a set that might exist. We asked for a bunch of feedback afterward. And then another thing that I didn't consider because I was designing my own cards, I think Alexis brought up, like, should you be voting on your own cards? Like, you're looking at 6 or 8 cards, one of them is yours. Should you just be giving yours a 5 every time? Should you be not touching it at all? What's the protocol here? And I guess there's kind of pressure. If you give your card a 3, then it's less likely to get in there. If you don't give yours a 5, then why did you submit it if it wasn't the perfect card?
Having come out of Card Coliseum on the Magic Set Editor server, where it was very common practice to vote for your own card, I was voting for my own card in this. As long as we're explicit on what we should or shouldn't be doing in that context, it's going to give everybody at least the same fairness when it comes to like a vote collection kind of thing.
Designing activities to do with Beacon is like game design itself. We have to like make it fun. We have to make it fair. We have to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field and doing the right thing. And we don't want people to feel bad because we didn't give voting guidelines. Like, we got to fix that. I think the biggest feedback overall and the biggest discussion when we do another You Make the Pack, maybe in a couple weeks, should there be structure on the pack? The way that I sort of designed it is the least structured thing that I've ever made, and is almost like anti-structure. Like, I'm not giving you what color you should design next. I'm not giving you the rarity. People converged on a really thematic pack despite all of that freedom. Some people wanted a little more structure, especially early on. Or maybe not even structure, but just like a whack on the side of the head style. Like, hey, today we're designing a card with Bloodthirst. Or today we're designing a gold card. Like a starting point.
Something that came through this pack was food, kitchen, cooking. These themes were like really being hammered home on many cards. Is like, how do we get out? Like if we want this world to feel a little more robust, but the only cards getting voted in are these food specific cards, could we have like a corporate Tim Riley come down and say, we really like what you guys are doing. The set's going great, but dogs, we got to get more dogs in the pack. Like, and I think that's kind of a fun way to like throw curveballs at the designers.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was feeling, again, as we were kind of getting into the later stages of the pack, was I'm going to make my card. It's going to go into the submission slot. And do I give feedback on other people's cards, or do I request feedback on my own card? And it just kind of got into this regimented, I'm going to make a card, I'm going to put it in there, I'm not going to say anything. It's going to stand up or not stand up by itself, and we'll see how it goes from there. And it would be kind of nice to like have that back and forth, even forced on the people doing the cards. So having a prompt might be, and even if it's not on every card, like maybe it's the third card or it's the seventh card, and just like, hey, just do something else right now, folks.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe just a couple of those slots, like maybe like 2 or 3 times in the pack. That's interesting. I'm maybe open to that. I think the suggestion that I saw that I think you could do in an event like this, but I'm maybe not ready to do that yet, is like agreeing on themes and things like that ahead of time. And I could see the power of that. Hey, we haven't made Underwater World yet. For this, you make the pack. It's got to be an underwater first world. It can have other pieces to it, but this is what we're locking in. Another thing that we're going to add as something that's locked in is that we have to have an enchantment theme. How would you actually enforce that? Does the first card have to meet that requirement?
Well, and the thing that's jumping out at me as potentially a challenge is like, are the first 6 cards all underwater enchantment cards? And like now your pack is like
okay
50% filled, and it's all themed so specifically that it feels kind of flat.
Yeah, I'm curious how that could be done. I think we're going to be running like something pretty close to regular You Make the Pack next, but then maybe after that, that's when we start to spice it up more. Oh, darn it, another food analogy. No spice.
The next You Make the Pack will be significantly more bland as a result of a lack of seasoning.
We're leaving Spice World behind. We're not doing it.
Spice World. Tim.
The girl groups.
Yes.
We need the sporty spice part of Spice World. We need... another thing that someone brought up is like, hey, can we get more time per slot? And that's something that I thought a lot about and was talked to people a lot before the event started. Like, how long should it be? I kind of felt strongly about, I want this to turn around relatively quickly. So if someone doesn't like Food World, in another 20 days, there'll be a new pack with a new theme and they don't have to worry about Food World anymore. So I wanted to keep the turnaround tight. So I didn't want to just do like 3 or 4 or 5 days or do an extra day of voting, or a revision day was another suggestion. But I think it was Julia came up with a great idea, which is maybe have multiple winners per slot. You maybe take a bunch of extra days, but then you get 2 cards into the pack from one time period. And I feel like that solved just like a million problems all at once. They kept the turnaround time overall tight, but maybe is going to give us what you were talking about before, the ability to give feedback. Day 1 and 2 come up with a card. Day 3 still come up with cards if you want to, but also I'm going to just go through every card and I'm just going to give my quick feedback on the 6 cards that are in there. And then day 4, 2 or 3 people revise their card. Whoever wants to, no one has to. Now you have time to like react to feedback, whereas 2 days was a little too short to react to feedback.
I thought that another cool thing about the 2 winners at a time style, that we came up with 15 cards in this pack, but we probably were in like the 50 to 80 cards like designed for the first You Make a Pack. And it's like, how much did we leave on the cutting room floor to make this pack? What I like about the 2 winners per submission is maybe you were close on a vote. Now maybe that card just gets in instead of, and maybe some conversation on like, hey, I would have voted for your card, but I would like you to change this little bit. Now you're just resubmitting a card from a previous thing instead of doing like a wholesale, like, okay, well, now I got to do this whole other thing now in order to make it into the pack.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, instead of like 10% or 20% of the cards that were designed making it in, maybe we get that number a little higher, and also we get a little more revision on those cards. The other kind of tweak to that, which I'm feeling pretty good about, that is maybe don't go 2 winners until you're a couple slots in. So the style that I proposed was for the first 3 time slots, you just do 1 card, 1 card, 1 card, and then you start doing 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. One of the things that I think people ran into on slots like 2, 3, 4, 5 was it was hard to come up with like a brilliant new vision for the other half of this world in 2 days. We all wanted something to break free from Food World, or to mix Food World with a second component, Underwater World or whatever. With 4 days and a lot more discussion time, you have the opportunity to like look at the first card and say, that's a cool card, and we'll get to that. We're going to, do food in this world. But while we're doing food, why don't we also do Dog World along with it? And so now we've got the dog mechanics and the food mechanics, and we had time to come up with those in the first couple packs. And then once we get a little further in, and it's starting to lock in, we learn people want to lock in and they like locking in. That puzzle's fun. Then we go a little more, then we go faster. We take off and we zoom along.
Yeah, I especially like the first 2 or 3 slots being single because they were so pack formative in the first pack. Like they were very important to what the overall pack was going to feel like.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. This first pack was already super fun. Just logging in every day, looking at the cards, voting for the cards. I spent a lot of time figuring out what scores I wanted to give. Now I'll have a little more time. Maybe I'll try to jump in there with some feedback each time around. And I hope everyone had a good time. I always try to say I usually at these kinds of events just kind of stick to voting, stick to administrating. I could always use more people on the voter squad, more people on the emoji squad. Just who maybe don't have the time or the energy to come up with cards, but just want to jump in there and support people and throw your opinions in there, with a 3-minute time investment instead of like what would you say, like a 20-minute time investment to design a card. Anything else on You Make the Pack before we wrap up?
So you could have an absolutely horrible idea free from me, where the third. I'm looking back at thread 1 on You Make a Pack, and I know Platy people submitted Peasant's Lieutenant, which is like the soldier card that cares about cheap creatures, things with mana value 1. So you could actually just have 2 You Make a Pack spawn right off the get-go, right? Like this is the second best performing card, so that's its own pack. And watch it just spread out in this big, Marvel Cinematic Universe style multiverse where now you've got thousands of You Make a Packs just coming off of second place finishes over and over and over again.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, how different it could have been.
So don't do that. I think that's silly.
Each of the first cards all create their own separate channel. We need Doctor Strange to help with that. If people do have more ideas for You Make the Pack, of course, jump in the channel. I think we'll probably kick it off in the new year just to let people get through the holidays without feeling like they have to log into Discord while they're at their family's house. But if you do want to design some cards, we always have our monthly design challenge. We get those design challenge entries and then we read them on the podcast once a month. We review them. So if you'd like to get your card read on the podcast, this is the way to do it. Our December design challenge. Well, why don't we have you read that? Do you mind reading that for us?
So we've got December. Design a monocolor card that produces an off-color effect. through the combination of 2 on-color effects.
Hmm.
And then we've also got Juliet's bonus points, only 2 mechanics. You can only use either Kicker on or Monstrosity, as those are the only mechanics that exist in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
And then we also have Platy's bonus, which is December. Make it care about the snow, which that's near and dear to my heart.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you think you build a snowman maybe every year, every couple of years?
I built a tiny snowman with our first snowfall this year, and
okay.
I'm excited to do a bigger one when we get a real good dump.
The idea of this design challenge, you're trying to combine 2 things that the color's allowed to do, but together yields an effect that maybe is not quite in that color. The classic one that we've been using is, blue bouncing a thing to the top of an opponent's library and then also making the mill. So, hey, take that card, put it in your graveyard. That's a little too close to destroy. But we've already gotten a lot of submissions for this one, and they're going in some directions. Did you do one yet? I don't think you've submitted a card.
No, not.
This is like a "did you have an idea" type design challenge. Like you have to wait for the inspiration to strike.
People are touching some really good versions of this challenge already. Like every time I think I'm close to one, somebody posts one. I'm like, that's really, really good.
Yeah, you got to not just have a good idea, but you have to have a good idea and then make sure no one has done it yet. Yeah. All right. You got until December 29th to get that in. And that's about it for the podcast for the week. Go ahead and join the Discord to interact with us. Thanks again for coming on, Redbay. Anything you want to tell people about?
Head on over to the Beacon of Creation Discord server if you're not already on there. There's lots of different things happening in various different channels, in addition to talking about Magic design. I have a channel where I'm working on some projects, namely my custom cube, which is going off the deep end in many different ways. So feedback.
Oh yeah, you had that great article. Yeah, we'll have to get that link.
Check out that article, and if you've got thoughts or if you want to tell me a cool idea that you have, I'm very interested in hearing it. I've got enough time on my hands to fiddle around with stuff like this, so I always enjoy it.
Yeah, you play tested that a couple times now, right?
Yeah, so the first 2 modules were play tested quite a bit, and then the third one just got its second play test this month, and it was fun. It's cool. It's cool to play with Magic cards that nobody's ever seen before. That's for sure.
If people want to come by your channel and then just look at the card list and then just dump their ideas, are you interested in that?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Just look at the cards. Here's some cards that jumped out. Why did you do this? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's always fun to get people's impressions of something. You've been doing these pack one pick ones, which I think are really fun. If you just want to help Redbay out just a little bit, get on the Discord, wait for that channel to light up, and when it does, tell them your picks. If you need to reach either Redbay or I, Discord's a great place to do that. You can find me at Tim F. Riley. And thanks everyone for listening.